I want to talk about two problems facing the world and two solutions that most people don't talk about. So the first thing I want to talk about is systemic issues. Because over the last few weeks, I've heard a lot about systemic racism, of course. A lot of people angry, mad, emotions high. People want change. But most people don't know how the system actually works. Most people don't know who runs the system. Most people don't know who is at the top of the system. You see, so many people, their solutions are fighting the system with the system. It's fighting the system based on dialectics given to them by the system itself. It's like if you were going to go to a psychologist and you had a mental health issue, how would you start to try to correct the mental health problem? Well, first, you would have to understand the problem. You would have to get to the root of the problem. And that's part of the problem with our culture when it comes to this sort of thing is most people don't even understand how the system works. So you can't correct something in a collective sense if you don't even know how things work. And the problem is in America anyways, and many parts of the world, is most people aren't taught how the world really works. We're not taught it in schools. We're sure as hell not taught it by the politicians. And we're not taught about it any other way. And that's because the real people that run the system, the real people at the top of the pyramid, the real groups, the real psychopaths, they want us to be ignorant. They don't want us to ever understand how the world really works. They don't want us to understand that the central banking system is owned by private families and that these people are actually more powerful than the nations themselves. They don't want people to understand that these people have formed a complex network of secret societies and other governing bodies that have allowed them to infiltrate all areas of everyone's culture and governments. They don't want people to ever know that. But what they do want people to do is fight against each other, right? And they want people to always be feuding with each other, thinking that that is somehow going to change the system. They want people to use their already designated ways to fight the system, which are actually given to the people by the system itself. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. And the second thing I wanted to talk about is another thing kind of related to this, because once again, there's been a lot of people that are angry, a lot of people that are finger pointing, a lot of people whose emotions are high, people want change, people want change, right? Change, real revolution, real change is a spiritual solution. It will always be a spiritual solution. You see, the ways of this world, people want change by finger pointing and being mad and all of these things, but they never talk. How often, I talked about this in another video recently, how often do you hear people talking about self-responsibility, self-accountability, internal change? How often do you hear about us talking about seeking spiritual truth, seeking spiritual reality? You see, people could finger point all they want, people could scream about racism all they want, people could say all this stuff. But at the end of the day, change is internal, change is individual, and change as a society, in a collective sense, doesn't happen until there is a critical mass point of changed individuals. You see, everyone wants, all these social justice warriors want change and things to be corrected. But the thing is, you can't control the internal world of another person. You will never have the ability to do that. And people that are not spiritually evolved remain in ignorance. And the only way to correct that is the person themselves going through a transformative spiritual process, which is internal. But you very rarely hear people talking about this stuff. So yeah, things won't ever actually change in a very good sense until people have a fundamental educational grasp on how the system actually works, who really runs the system, and we won't progress in the truest sense until there is a spiritual revolution. But I don't think the majority of people are ready for that type of conversation in our secularized, materialistic culture. People just want to point fingers and scream and yell and change the system with the system and fight each other instead of ever uniting against the real problem, and instead of ever internally changing and doing their own spiritual work. Because that, my friends, is what would lead to real change. The solution is always a spiritual one. Anyways, I'm out. Everyone have a wonderful day, and peace.